Tonight, live, Facebook, and our new podcast. Tonight, we're going to talk about Pathway to Recovery discussion. Why don't we do some introductions first? Tell us your name and what you have to do with Live Right, what your position is. If you're just a speaker, let us know.
I'm Justin. I'm an addict, and I am currently a client at Live Right.
All right.
I'm Emma, I'm staff, and I'm also alumni.
I'm Bruce. I'm a residential manager and advisory board member.
I'm Stacy, and I'm a house manager, and I run a boutique for donations and a food pantry, and I'm also a CRP.
PRC. And you're on the board.
And I'm on the board.
All right. And Matt, do you want to say anything since you're peeking around the corner? Tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm Matt. I'm a part of the outreach for Live Right and long-term recovery, and glad to be here today.
All right. And so our discussion tonight is about pathways to recovery. So since there's a lot of controversy out there and we all have to start changing our mindsets and how we get clean and what methods we use, we're going to try to touch base on the 12-step first, which is pretty familiar, correct? So we have 12-step, medicated assisted, behavior modification, incarceration, experimental approaches, which, is becoming a new thing, family therapy, codependency treatment, religious and spiritual approaches, smart recovery, refuge recovery, celebrate recovery, work therapy, harm reduction, and moderation. So what we are trying to ask here is, what is your personal pathway to recovery and experience? Justin?
My personal experience is with the 12-step program, and I've tried a lot of different things, and that is the only thing that seems to has worked on a long-term basis with me.
Okay.
Okay.
Emma?
So my personal pathway has also been the 12-step program. Statistically, it's one of the most successful interventions, and it's also an evidence-based treatment. But I also wanted to mention that incarceration has also played a role in my personal experience with recovery.
Bruce, go ahead.
Yes, also I'm definitely a 12-step member, so to speak. I also, unfortunately, had to dabble in incarceration. But as my 12 steps have progressed, I'm now venturing into the spiritual side of recovery.
Okay, great. And Stacy?
I'm more in the smart recovery. I'm not into the 12 steps, the higher power. I like to keep busy and give back. And I don't want to be reminded every day that I'm an addict. In the meetings, that's how I feel. I just like to live life.
That's awesome. That's good. Matt, do you want to add anything for your type of recovery? You can come over here and kneel down by Bruce or get you a chair if you'd like.
Hang on, let me get a sip of water first. Yeah, 12-step played a big part of my first 2 years in recovery that I practiced in prison. That was forced recovery, but whatever works till you get there, I believe in highly. And I do all the principles on a daily basis with work, family, friends. And the main thing that I found out is to be plugged in everybody in your circle to be a part of recovery. And then that prevents a big chance for relapse and going back out there. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. And is James out there in the hallway? Could you bring James in and we'll talk to James and see how? Doesn't sound like James.
No, I won't.
Well, how about you, Nick?
Oh, here.
You want to give us some information? This is Nick Harris, everyone. The sheriff.
I guess. Okay, so wait, what was the question again?
What is your pathway to recovery? What do you feel?
Well, mine's the 12 steps. For me, I've tried some other things that really never worked for me. You know, it doesn't mean that it wouldn't work for someone else, but I know in my recovery and everything that I do, I apply the 12 steps in my life. So that's what works for me.
So the 12-step program
Yeah,
works
but
for you.
I'm open to other pathways, you know what I mean? Because I do know other people that did, you know, like other kind of maintenance, I guess, you know what I mean? And it's working for them, you know what I mean? So who am I to judge someone else on how they do their thing, you know what I mean? So as long as we're not out there dying, I guess we're fighting the fight. So.
Okay, and exactly. And that's kind of how I'm saying that our mind, our different types of open-mindedness to the different types of recovery.
Right.
We have to change. It's all about changing. There's new ways of recovery. You know, I'll have 21 years on Friday. Is it Friday? The
Yep.
5th? Yep. So
It's going to be a big cake.
mine was a 12-step abstinence. That's it. So, you know, being the owner of Live Right Properties and the recovery homes, I have to start to make some, you know, be open-minded, make some
Right.
changes.
And I think that's important because a lot of people that have been clean for a long time are stuck in the way of
Yeah.
nothing.
They get
You know what I
stale.
mean? So, yeah, exactly.
So as long as they're doing something to help give back, get involved, that should keep them clean. That's how I see it. But you know, we wanted to say hello to Jeffrey Paul.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi,
Hey,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Everybody knows Jeff. And then Alyssa Lauren Ingalls. Is
Hey,
on.
listen.
And,
Hey.
I can't. Do I have that turned on? So if there's people out there, please share it. Please let people know that we are doing this to help others and individuals to get it out there. We will be doing this once a month as of right now, and we will have our podcast. This will be on YouTube. So let's go to the next question. What pathways have you tried in the past? And did you fail? Did you move forward with it? Did you try a different pathway? Justin?
I have tried several. I guess
We have some pathways on the tables if you guys want to take a look.
one would be my own version of heroin assisted treatment, which obviously didn't work. I've tried Vivitrol, and for me personally, it did not work.
Could you use when you were on Vivitrol?
I mean, yeah, I could. I mean, you couldn't feel opiates, but I would just, smoke crack.
Oh.
Yep.
And then
Substitute your drug.
exactly,
Yep,
exactly. And then moderation. I think at least early on in recovery or in my addiction, that was something. It was an illusion in my head that I thought I could control it. You know what I mean? And I tried psychiatry. I tried a lot of different things, and like I said, the only thing that seemed to work was the 12-step abstinence program, and I still live by that today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What about you, Emma? Have you tried other pathways that you'd like to discuss with us?
I definitely tried moderation early on in my attempts in recovery. I had convinced myself that I could control my drug use. I had convinced myself that I wasn't really a drug addict, that I was just somebody who had a lifestyle problem. And I thought that I could use occasionally, or I thought I could use things that weren't my drug of choice. But in the end, abstinence combined with a 12-step program is what worked for me. And as a result of that, I celebrated 5 years in December. But I also wanted to mention that I also tried methadone. And I'm actually wondering if anybody wanted to share their opinions on medication-assisted treatment. Because I have my personal opinions on it, and it's so hard when you're coming from a 12-step background because we're so used to abstinence is the only way. But now that I work in the industry, it's important to be open-minded to the other pathways. So I was wondering what everybody's thoughts are on medication-assisted treatment. And that does include methadone, Subutex, Suboxone, Vivitrol, and heroin-assisted treatment. Anybody want to?
Go ahead, jump in, Bruce.
Yeah, I personally don't have any experience with that because I'm an alcoholic. And, but I am open-minded to that, but I think it all comes down, for that to even be successful or anything like that, I think you have to start off right from the get-go that you have the mindset that you are not going to use, and this is just a using guide, those drugs, just a guide. And I think that has to be refined more, because now we're seeing people that are relapsing and using that excuse to carry on, well, I'll be all right if, this. But I think you have to start off saying, I don't want to use, and I've tried everything else, I will try this. I with the right mindset, I wish it luck and success, because it's better than dying.
Right.
Isn't it the same? So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a harm reduction approach, and it's very controversial. And like I was saying, for me, it's hard to understand how a person can recover. And by recovery, most of us in the 12-step program think of recovery as a spiritual awakening. And for me, it's hard to understand how you can have a spiritual awakening, a spiritual experience, while you're still under the influence. Because methadone, buprenorphine, they are both mind and mood altering. Now, Vivitrol is in the same category. It's considered medication-assisted treatment because technically Vivitrol is an opiate, but it's not intoxicating. So it's just hard for me to understand how you can recover while you're still under the influence of the mind or mood altering substances. But we just went to a convention, and they really talked, they pushed the idea of using medication assisted treatment alongside psychosocial treatment approaches. So it's not just supposed to be you go dose every day and then you recover. It's supposed to be, you're supposed to be going to outpatient. There's meetings that is for people specifically that are on MAT. So I can kind of understand how that might work for some people.
Okay, that sounds it sounds like we don't have anybody here that actually did the medicated assisted treatment or they may have tried it. Have you tried it?
Yeah, I've tried methadone and Suboxone. Methadone always took me right back out. It was just, if you couldn't get there to dose, it was easy to call the dope man. And then Suboxone, I liked it, but the script runs out and it's hard to get into the doctor to get it. And it's just a big headache. It's easier to be without drugs.
For you?
For me.
For you?
Yes.
Okay.
It's easier just to do nothing.
And I was on the Vivitrol for my first 60 days when I came to Libre. And they say for alcoholics, it does ease the obsession to drink. And that is correct. Any obsession that I suffered from was self-inflicted. It wasn't me being focused on not picking up that first drink. Although, instead of my mind wandering to that drink, the Vivitrol did nullify that. Which, I give kudos for that. But that was just a tool for me to get over that one hump of obsession that I had with it. That was helpful.
So it sounds like maybe Vivitrol or even Subutex or Suboxone can be helpful in the initial stages when you're trying to abstain, but you have overwhelming desires to use, obsession to use.
Correct.
So it sounds like maybe it sort of put a stop to that for you a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. Except unlike Suboxone or whatever, there's no dopamine kick. There is no high to it.
No.
So and that I favored, because if I were to be under any influence of anything, trying to get clean, forget about it. It's not working for me.
Right.
So it was a good choice.
Okay. So why do you think some of those ways didn't work for you? Why? What is your response to why it didn't work for you? And what about the person out there there is functioning people. I know I've spoke with other people, individuals, there's attorneys, doctors, lawyers that are medicated assisted now. I mean, if they're functionable, just like they call a functionable alcoholic, the same path. I mean, what is your opinion on that? Anybody wants to jump in?
I think, at least for me and the Vivitrol, I think you just really have to want it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because in my case, like I went to treatment and I tried to want it. You know what I mean? But it just the thoughts in my head were just still there, and I was like, well, I'll get the Vivitrol just as a safety net. And I went out and I just didn't have the right mindset. So I was like, I'm gonna use whatever I can. So it's like the Vivitrol. I said it's supposed to help curb like thoughts and urges.
The urges, yes.
And I mean, just for me, it really didn't. I believe it's because I didn't really want it. You know what I mean?
So maybe you weren't ready at the time.
Right.
Okay. So we want to say hello to Robert Bandy,
Hi, Robert.
Hey, Robert.
Hey,
All
Mr.
right.
Bandy.
Maureen Moran,
Hi,
Marie.
Marie.
Christy Coleman,
Christy Coleman's in the house.
and our old dear friend Stephen White.
Hey.
Hey,
Steve, how are
Glad to
you?
have you
And
aboard.
Stuart Papalarski.
Hi,
Stuart.
Love that name. James Kawa,
Hi, James.
Hey, James.
Brian Tomick.
Brian.
Brian.
Oh, we got Chris McEwen
Hi,
Chris.
Chris.
and Alan Hanna.
Hey,
Alan.
In
Alan.
the
Banana.
house.
All right.
Thank you guys. And now, let's see. Robert Bogues just chimed in.
Oh, snap.
Robert.
Okay. So, if anybody has any questions they'd like to text us, we would love to answer and respond about different pathways of recovery. And now we're up to the part about behavior modification, addressing the criminal lifestyle. Anybody have anything they would like to add to that criminal lifestyle? Even though we got James Davis in the next room, won't come talk to us.
I tried that as part of my recovery back in the past, addressing the situation that if I change my lifestyle, I'll stop drinking. If I stop being a criminal, I'll stop drinking. I definitely believe that that way of living was just as addicting as it was as me picking up a drink. But it wasn't until I thoroughly addressed the drinking. I had to get rid of the drinking, and while I was getting rid of the drinking, getting my mind right, that lifestyle had to disappear. So I was attacking it the wrong way. There is no, I think you have to address your drug of choice, so to speak. That's got to be addressed before you can do anything, because you have to think right to do right. And I was doing it all backwards, and until I totally surrendered to the booze and the lifestyle. That just went right along with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
Actually, Stacy and or Matt may be able to chime in on this because I know you guys go to group therapy, and this is Mike Mooney's approach. So, any thoughts?
On the criminal.
Yeah, addressing the criminal lifestyle as a treatment approach.
Well, I think, hang on, let me get our drink here.
You know whose glass he's drinking from, right?
Anyways,
Lick it.
like Mike M shares in his group that we go to every Wednesday is the criminology. A lot of times it's a rush of doing something and getting away with it, no matter if you needed it. I mean, back in the day before they had scanners and all that and barcodes, I used to change prices to get it cheaper, and I didn't even need the product. And I'd walk around with a lot of money in my pocket. It was just the thrill of doing it, getting away with it, and it's part of the lifestyle of getting away with it. They're ripping and running, doing things, just to say, I don't know what it's to build up your self-esteem, or everybody's a little separate, a little individual, but that's what I can relate to, the scheming and ripping and roaring and little Timmy.
Little Timmy. I agree with Matt. I feel the same way. Just the rush of the lifestyle was hard to give up. I didn't know how else to live. I've been on a substance since I was 12 years old, and learning to live without it is a big deal.
Okay. So living on the edge,
Mm-hmm.
you have to change. That's what I hear everybody saying. How do you make that change? By getting into recovery. So would anybody say something about like living in an environment rather than prison? Because you really can't change because you're not out here living on the edge. You're in one spot. But maybe living in recovery homes or after treatment, you know, do you think you start to change with your behaviors and being clean? Being abstinent? Remaining abstinent?
I think you change the second that you honestly surrender to yourself. I mean, that there's a reason why that's step one, because that has to happen before anything else happens. You had to surrender in your recovery manner, right? I mean, everyone has to say, "This is it. I'm done." You know, for whatever reason it is, it has to be that honest. It's got to be honest. You know, you look in that mirror and say, "Ooh, I'm done."
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Mike Walbeck in the house.
Michael!
And Jill Plants.
Jill!
And let me see what else I got going here. I haven't seen anybody really. Okay, he just wanted to say, let's see, Robert Bandy just wanted to say thank you for all the information and help y'all put out there. Information is absolutely what is needed to get everyone on board with the fight against addiction. Thanks, Recovery Rocks. And Robert Bogues wants to add, thanks, Matt. That's a good idea. What about criminals who own and run three-quarter housing? Guess who that's from? Robert Bogues.
That's a whole different subject.
That's a whole. We're not on that subject. We are actually on the pathways to recovery. So, if you're a criminal, we can all change. And Nick Dean's in the house, you guys.
Hi,
Hey, Nikki.
Angela Loven.
Angela.
And so the next question would be about the experimental approaches. I've heard a lot about this lately. One of our old clients and employees' mother went to one of these approaches. And who knows about the experimental approaches? Ibogaine and what is it called?
Ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca. Does anybody know about these? Nick, how about you? Come on, go.
Come on,
Nick.
give it.
Tell us all about
No,
it.
I don't.
Give us a plug. What do you know?
I don't know. I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that like ayahuasca and stuff is like. I know like a lot of Aboriginals and stuff like that, like from what is it, like Australia and stuff like that. I know they've used that to have like that's their spiritual awakening. So using that with 12 steps or whatever way you want, you know, spiritual awakening.
Is that like LSD?
Yeah, it's like LSD,
hallucinogen.
DMT, stuff like that. That's about all I know. I've never actually did it. I know I've done like the special K or whatever it is.
Did that help you?
Well, no. But I mean, that's all I know about that. But I mean, I've never, like I said, I've never done it before. So like,
Man, where was that 14 years ago?
I know, right?
Right.
Okay, so Emma, do you know a little bit about it?
I know a little bit about it. So I know more about ibogaine than I do about ayahuasca. But ibogaine is a recognized treatment for addiction in Canada and Mexico. And it's actually statistically pretty effective. And so they dose you with the ibogaine, and then you are monitored for about the next 12 hours. And there are medical professionals there that are monitoring you. And essentially, you trip. Essentially, the idea is that you'll have a spiritual experience, a spiritual awakening, and you hallucinate. And so, like I said, it's actually statistically pretty effective. And then they do booster doses like over time. So I think originally it was thought that it was like a one-time kind of thing. So you took this ibogaine, you had this trip, and then you were just done being addicted. But now they're trying to enforce these booster doses where over time you take like small doses of ibogaine to sort of like reset your brain, I think. And
Balance.
yeah, yep. So it's
So what
actually
they're
a
saying is
natural
we all have a
substance.
chemical imbalance.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
I know that.
I think that's what Jimi Hendrix used.
Right. Yeah. Unsuccessfully though.
Not a success
Okay.
story.
It's interesting.
Awesome. Okay. So where is some of the experimental approach therapies? Where are they located? Does anybody have any idea? I know one's in Florida,
So
Mexico.
Canada, Mexico has ibogaine, and then I think ayahuasca is in Arizona
Oh, okay.
because it's like a Native American
Native
tradition.
Oh,
So-
okay, good. So there's a place to go if it's something you
Believe
might
me.
help you. Another pathway, right? What about family therapy and codependency treatment? What is your thoughts on that?
Well, you guys have probably heard that addiction is a family disease, right? That's what they say because it affects the entire family. So essentially, the idea is that you would address addiction, like sort of holistically, and treat the addict while simultaneously providing therapy to the family. And then I think codependency is a big thing for people that are affected by SUDs. So I think pretty much all addicts are codependent, right? That's kind of something that goes hand in hand with addiction. So I think it's important to incorporate the family into the treatment approach. So, and I think that a lot of inpatient centers are now doing this actually. So bringing the family in for family counseling with the therapist after the individuals had some one-on-ones and groups with the therapist. So I think that it's an important sort of dimension in the treatment of addiction is family therapy.
Okay. Well, I can say for myself, when I first, was having issues with addiction, which back then nobody ever heard of that. So the first place you go is to a therapist, help me type thing. That's what I see. And then for the family dynamics, at that time, your family didn't want to be involved because they felt like you were blaming them. So now it's a whole new world out here. Family needs help, and so does the recovering addict. Whether or not you're talking to that addict anymore, the family needs help. They need to know where to go. They need to know how to decipher that their child or, their adult child is not, it's not a moral deficiency. It's a disease, it's for real, a disease that needs to be treated. And that addict trained them. We trained our family how to respond to what our needs and wants were for a long time. So, I believe that everybody needs help in this addiction path, the road to recovery. We do have a Misty Wethington, and she said she knows of a few of those treatment for experimental approaches. If she would give us a text, that would be awesome, so we could put that out there. And Angela Lovan is talking about doing the next right thing when nobody is looking at what holds me together every day. Lifestyle changes are hard for people getting out of jail and have nothing. We have to reach out in order to find helpers, mentors, people doing what we as addicts dream of. I was a junkie for 25 years and people trust me today. That's awesome. Angela, please give them our name and number. And the name of our group is Live Right Structured Recovery Corp. Our telephone number is 586-217-5899 because we do help with all of those things that you had mentioned. We have mentors. We have jobs for people. We have food. We have clothing. And this resource center that's going to be opening up May 1st, we're already starting now, will be available to everybody in the community in recovery and their families that need help. Okay, so our next thing is religious spiritual approaches. What do we got on that?
Amen.
Matt, you want to come tell us about your spiritual and religious approach?
Yeah. Hang on. One more sip.
It's good stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I was brought up Catholic. Went to catechism, made my confirmation, but I always said my prayers every night and every morning even. But I always prayed when I was in a jail cell overnight, not to do it again, to get me out of trouble one more time. Now I pray on a daily basis to thank him for what I have and not what I don't have. And
did you just crush your eyes?
no way. It was flying in my nose. But anyways, Yeah, so that's my spiritual thing. As far as a spiritual awakening, I haven't really had one, but I've been plugged in with God in my life since an early age because of, catechism and my confirmation. But like I said, I'd always, I got a lot of drunk drivings under my belt, and I'd always pray, oh my God, one more time, I won't do it again, I won't drink again, and that I'd get bailed out and go back to it, or 16 times. But like I said, now I pray to him on a daily basis. Things work out. Tomorrow's another day, and that's been working for me for the last 14 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Amanda Sexton is in the house. And,
yeah.
and she says, Emma knows her stuff. And we know she does. She's much, and here we go with the religious and spiritual approaches. I know this little girl for over 7-8 years. And she used to always tell me when she first came around my house, there's no God, I don't have to do this. I don't believe in that. And praying and all that.
Like
So we're going to let Emma tell us about her new spiritual approaches.
So, like Brenda said, I did sort of justify leaving the program, not participating in the program when I was in and out in my 20s. Because I consider myself an agnostic. I have for a very, very long time. But I still found that the 12-step program worked for me when I actually applied myself to it because, and I talked about this in my blog recently, actually, you can still be a spiritual person and still make the 12-step program work for you by applying the spiritual principles. And there's actually a story in the back of the NA book. It's called Atheists Recover Too. And that story actually really helped me because, like I said, that was one way in which I, excluded myself from the program. But you just have to apply the spiritual principles. You can still be a spiritual person. And Bruce was talking about surrender earlier. I think that has been... I feel like I can sum up my entire spiritual experience with just that one principle of surrender. So,
Thank you. Anybody else want to talk about it?
I think my definition of spirituality would be different than Stacy's or Emma's and Justin's. Everyone has their own.
We'll allow it.
What that means to them. When you do surrender, you have to give it to something. That's what surrendering means, that you're giving it to something. And I give it to my higher power. And spirituality means to me that I'm doing right by somebody else. But by me doing right by somebody else and helping somebody out, no matter how big or how small this help is, it gets me out of myself. And if I'm doing that, that's what my higher power wants. Because whatever I was doing for myself did not work. And always led me back to a drink. But I find if I just help somebody in the littlest way, there comes some happiness. And with happiness comes, all right, I can do this again tomorrow. And that gets me through the next day. And I say prayers to my higher power. Who that is, I don't know yet. Nickname him Gus, the guy upstairs, because I have no clue.
I love that.
So I don't know. I know it works, so I know that totally surrendering and saying there's something out there. Einstein said it. If we're creation, who created us? We don't know. But and spiritual awakening, and God never came down, or my higher power never came down and touched me on the shoulder and put a halo over my head or anything like that. No, he makes me do all the work. I can say prayers, but I know darn well that if I'm not working at what I'm supposed to be working, there's no blessings involved at all. So I think it varies from each individual, and each individual, I think it comes that special uniqueness that we all have and that we're gifted with. I think it's great.
So good, orderly direction.
Or Gus,
Or
the
guy
guy
upstairs.
The guy
There you
upstairs.
go.
Or
Good
girl
job, Bruce.
upstairs,
Doing
right?
the
Girl
next
upstairs.
right thing
And
is
that's
what we
where
have to remember.
And that's where happiness comes from. A lot of people early in recovery, well, I'm not happy. I'm looking for happiness. Well, just put down your drink or drug. That doesn't make you happy. I truly believe that happiness is a byproduct of doing right by somebody else, helping out, Because you'd be
stepping out of our self-centered
Yeah.
stuff.
You'd be surprised. You wonder why you're smiling. Well, it's probably because you said something nice, gave somebody a compliment,
Mm-hmm.
or helped somebody with something, and you realize you're smiling. Well, that's happiness to me. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
What about you, Stacy? Would you like to add anything to the religious spiritual approach?
No.
No, you're good. What about you?
Yeah. I think, like several people have already mentioned, it's basically just doing the next right thing. And, like for myself and for a lot of other addicts that I see are brand new, once you start doing the right thing, even when no one's looking, I mean, good shit starts happening in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, doors start opening. It's not, that complicated. And I think those the good things that start happening in your life and the doors that are opening, in the basic text it talks about small miracles, and that's what I truly believe. And it's like, there's a little voice inside my head that tells me whether I'm doing right or wrong. You know what I mean? I go into Walmart.
Feel it in your gut.
Right. So it's like, some people may refer to it as higher consciousness or even a higher power. So it's like I believe that a higher power is within myself as well.
Okay. All right. So we had a question. When does that Saturday night meeting start? So we are opening a Saturday night meeting. And Justin, if you want to tell us the name, this is Justin who is handling that. He's doing his own meeting out here.
Yes, we are doing a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. I believe starting in May is going to be the East Side Story group of Narcotics Anonymous. Be held downstairs here at the Resource Center. And yeah, we're going to be having flyers made up, making announcements. Just went to the MSO, got all the supplies. So we are really looking forward to starting that group.
Okay. And then we have some people that are interested in doing a refuge recovery. We're speaking with Steve Lawrence on that tomorrow. We kind of have a Celebrate Recovery. That's with Melissa Murray is spiritual recovery. We've been doing that with her, and we have that over at Bernadette's Faith in Action Church on 10 and Harper. So it's 10 and Harper. So we do have a group over there, and it's open to the community. It's every Thursday at 6 p.m. And then we have yoga following right after at 7:30. So if you guys want to come out and join us for that, we'd love it. So what about Smart Recovery? Do we have anything we'd like to add with Smart Recovery, Refuge Recovery, Celebrate Recovery? Anybody want to jump in for that?
I know, I believe, is it Celebrate Recovery? I believe that's a 12-step, like biblical,
Yeah.
Christian-based. So I think that's a 12-step meeting.
That's cool.
Okay, we got some more. While you're looking through that and moving the papers around, Stacy Taylor asks, and by the way, Stacy's in the house. Say hello.
Hey, Stacy! ST!
She said, excellent job, you guys. Does anyone have a specific practice they do to strengthen their spirituality, like meditation, yoga, anything? Like, I know Stacy is an avid ice skater, correct? Okay, anybody else have anything they want to add? What do you do to strengthen your conscious contact or spirituality? Same, for me, it's the same. Anybody?
Meditation, what I would, to my sponsor, meditation is nothing but being quiet and listening to what your higher power's got to tell you. And as Justin said, that you have some power within you, and you know right from wrong. So when you're sitting there when I'm asking Gus, well, is this the right thing to do? Basically, I just have to be quiet. It can be just walking down the street or walking to work, where the answers do come to me. And you, as you said, Brenda, you get that gut feeling. You know what's right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I usually know that when it comes out of my mouth, I'm like, shh.
Right.
You cannot retract. Right. Kind of like texting. You cannot retract. It's gone.
It's out there in the world. So But yeah, meditation is nothing but just quieting yourself for me anyway. It's just quieting myself and listening to what Gus is telling me. When in turn, and then you just accept that and you go on. But quiet reflection time definitely works for me. It's nothing formal or anything like that. As I said, it works when I'm walking to work. It works when I'm sitting in the backyard raking. It's just being, part of my recovery is trying to stay focused.
Okay. What about you, Stacy? Got anything to add to that about what you do? Since you really don't like the meetings, what do you do that keeps you clean and keeps you spiritually connected?
I like my quiet time and to collect my thoughts, and I just like to keep busy and help others. I really like giving back.
That keeps you connected?
Keeps me connected, yeah.
Okay.
Helping a mom today, she was distraught when she dropped her daughter off, and she was so afraid that she was gonna drop dirty for something, and she was swearing to me, she's been with me the whole time. I'm like, I just need to drop her, I gotta find out, And she's just always a wreck, and giving her a hug made my day, made her day, I felt her just melt into me.
Oh,
And that was how I stayed connected, helping out.
awesome. Thank you. Justin, how do you stay connected?
Well, I was like really consciously trying to make an effort to pray and meditate, but it's never the first thing on my mind when I wake up, or I'll find days that I don't even think about it at all. So I literally set an alarm on my phone every day that goes off to remind me to pray. And at first I was just praying for, I just hope everything works out the way it's supposed to. But lately I've been just thanking, whatever my higher power is, just showing gratitude, thanking for the things I do have.
I do that.
You know what I mean?
What about you, Emma? Do you want to add anything?
I used to do gratitude lists, and I found them very helpful. So I had like a gratitude journal, and every day I would write 5 to 10 things in there that I was grateful for. It's a practice that I actually picked up in Turning Point because I went there. So I found gratitude lists to be very helpful in cultivating spirituality, that conscious contact, that quiet time, meditation. I found that very helpful.
Okay, great. I find for my recovery that I thank God before I go to bed at night, and I thank Him in the morning, and throughout the day. And I have a long drive around that lake coming to work every day, and that's where I get quiet. My radio's off, I can get quiet, and I can be very thankful, and I can share. I'm going to break Matt's anonymity, and I hear him every night. I want to tell him, be quiet when you pray. Just because I just want to tell him what to do. It's not a big deal. But we got Edward Lasik joined in. Karen Breyer joined in.
Karen.
Stacy Becker.
Stacy in my house. Hey, Stacy.
Stacy. And here's a question that Robert Robinson, he was asking about, I practice Buddhism and would be honored to be helpful in any way. Steve L knows how to get a hold of me. So Steve Lawrence is gonna actually come and visit us tomorrow, hopefully, and he can, connect with him.
We can pull him in for a session.
Yeah, we'd love to, because I know he does some drug-free all-star stuff. There was another question that Robert Bogues had on here, if I can find it.
Imagine that.
It was about PTSD. So what do we do about that type of nothing like abstinence? What about PTSD from addiction years? Post-traumatic syndrome disorder. So what do we...
Well,
anybody have anything on that?
Well, they could probably call Robert directly.
And we
His
do.
phone number is.
So we do have a trauma group for women. We definitely want to look into adding more programming for trauma survivors, PTSD, people affected by PTSD. And then another thing that we want to do is we want to start a veteran support group
Yep.
because veterans are statistically much more likely to be affected by both SUDs and PTSD. So that's something that we're looking into. We're hoping to have some help from people that are veterans. So if anybody
Knows
is
a
watching
veteran,
now,
please.
let us
Yeah.
know.
Please let us know. That's something that they do have a veterans court at 41st B and I believe 16th District. So that's something we would love to help out with. And we know there's a need and we're willing to do that. So if they need a support group, people know about it, please contact us. Please give us a call. Again, our number is 586-217-5899.
Any veterans that want to come aboard, please call.
So here we go. We are to harm reduction and kratom, moderation. Well, we don't even need to say moderation. We're gonna stick with harm reduction. Let's talk about harm reduction. What does harm reduction mean to you?
Personally, harm reduction. I guess.
You think that has to do with Narcan? That's a harm
I think it has to
reduction?
do with education.
There you go.
You know what I mean? I don't really. I guess I can understand people using kratom.
I don't think so.
I've even personally experimented with it, and I
Well,
found it.
before you go any further, where did the kratom take you?
Oh, it took me back out.
Okay.
It took me back out. It's it was physically addictive, and it's basically like a methadone or a Suboxone, except it's legal.
You can buy it at any smoke shop.
Yeah,
It's pretty.
yeah, it's. I mean, maybe it helps some people, but for me personally, it did not work.
Okay. All right. Emma, what do you have to say about the harm reduction that's out here now?
So I would say that I actually am a supporter of harm reduction if we're looking at addiction as something that affects the society as a whole. So for me personally, I'm all for abstinence. I'm ride or die, abstinence 12-step. But in terms of legislation and other approaches that affect the society as a whole, as a treatment to addiction, I support harm reduction. And also I'm from Europe, so that's what I'm used to. So we have safe injection sites in Europe. We have passing out of needles so people aren't sharing them because it does cut down on the transmission of diseases. So I would say that I am a supporter of harm reduction as a whole.
Okay. So we have Mike Servino in the house,
Hey, Mike.
Anthony Hunter,
Hi, Anthony.
and Laura Weber.
Hey, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
So, anybody else want to say anything about harm reduction?
I'm with Emma on it. As far as supporting, it does. If it helps, even just one person from not dying, so be it. But personally, for me, harm reduction is not even in my vocabulary. It's total abstinence.
Since most of you work for or live or have lived in a recovery house, what would you say if we had a harm reduction in the house and somebody was there high?
I would
Because
think
we
you'd
didn't
have
want to
to-
put them out.
Right. I think you'd have to have a separate environment.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
So you
mix it
wouldn't
too.
approve it in the house
Yeah.
you're in now?
No,
Not at all.
there's no way.
Why
No.
is that? Take somebody back out
Take
with them?
somebody
Take
back
their
out.
entire house out
We
with them?
can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of that little nod that people see that gets them, I don't know what it is. I'm not a recovering heroin addict, but I do know that it seems to be appealing
You
to
know
the
the nod.
next.
Yeah.
Huh?
You know the nod when you see
Right.
it.
So
Huge
it's
trigger.
a trigger.
I
There
mean,
you go.
that's the nod to a heroin addict is a,
Okay, so we
is a
have
stagger to the drunk. So,
Right.
yeah.
we have Albert Perilli,
Albert,
Hey.
Neil Rice.
Neil.
Neil. Okay. Anybody want to add anything else to the harm reduction?
Because the whole philosophy behind harm reduction is the assumption that people are going to use no matter what.
Right.
So
Right.
you're making an attempt to make it as safe as possible for them and to decrease the overdose rates and then decrease the transmission of disease rates.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea, because people are going to use.
It's a,
So-
it's a disease they're going to use
Right.
until they are willing to become,
Right.
to surrender,
surrender.
and to make some changes in their life and get some education behind it, and the families. It's not just, you know, the diseased one. You know, sometimes we know where they're at.
As much as we'd like to save everybody, we know we aren't.
Right.
You
Thank
know,
you,
so
Nick. Thank you.
That's right.
Okay, so I think at this point we don't have any more questions. We've been on the air here for a minute, right?
Couple minutes.
A few minutes. Does anybody have anything they would like to add to the pathway to recovery discussion? Nick, do you want to add anything?
no, I think we've touched everything
Let's see
that
if
needed to be
we can bring
touched.
James in here really quick.
If you want to go
James.
see, if you can get James in
I'm
here,
gonna
we'd
try.
love to have him in here, but
Do
he
it.
told Matt no.
No way.
So, what we do want to do is announce about our Recovery Resource Center. It's at 27700 Gratiot Avenue in Roseville. It's the old Fox Portrait Studios. We are going to be open to the public May 1st. We do have our offices in here. We have some resources here. If you just want to stop in and visit us, check it out, see what's going on, please do. And we will try to come back again in another month. And we are going to get started with a radio station that Mateo DeSanto is going to hook us up with. So hopefully we'll see everybody around. If you would be interested in joining with us, please send us a text or a Facebook message, call our office. We would love to have some different discussions and have some people out here and tell us what we can do in the community to help others. And we want to say hi to Jeff James,
Yeah.
Hi, Jeff.
Jeff.
and we will talk to everybody later. Matthew Malcolm, wait a minute. We have to say hello to Matthew.
Hey, Eminem.
And he owns New Hope Houses.
All right. Woo.
So, and Stacy Taylor joined again. So she must be cutting us in and out.
Yeah.
Nick. You got to talk to
She
Stacy.
must be making me dinner or something.
Oh, she's making Nick dinner. All right, that's what it is.
I'm offended.
So we know. Okay, so thank you, everyone. Thank you guys so much. It was awesome.
Thank you for having us.
I think
Thank
we
you
do.
for everybody watching.
Love you, Stacy.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.